Let me tell you about what I saw was going on in Ohio with a former attorney who's accusing a judge of ex parte misconduct relating to conversations he was having at 3:30 in the morning before his sentencing. It's the first thing I saw about this case, and I dove in, and it gets wilder. So hit the like button. Let's go. So this is the first thing I saw. This is from ABC 6 from this morning. Lawyer asks for prison release because of alleged judge misconduct. I'm like, oh, okay, let's see what happened. So jumping down here, we're near the Columbus, Ohio area. A former Bucyrus attorney is seeking release from prison. Attorney Adam Stone would like release because of what he calls misconduct by a Delaware County judge and assistant prosecutor. Judge James Schuck, that's pictured here, took a voluntary leave of absence in November, and we're going to find out he's still on this voluntary leave after allegations of stalking were filed in a civil suit by the prosecutor. So I'm like, wait, what? And it went on to say no charges have been filed. It's being investigated by a special prosecutor. And Stone, the attorney Adam Stone, is asking for judicial release. He was sentenced last August to more than 4 years. So down the rabbit hole we go. Back in July of 2025, Adam Stone, the former Bucyrus attorney, pleaded guilty to telecommunications fraud and impersonating an Ohio AG attorney. Apparently, he was defrauding grieving parents for over a year. He was representing them in a matter, and he'd lost their son's wrongful death lawsuit, but kept telling them he was still working on it. And he was pretending to be this attorney with the AG's office when he was calling the victims. So Stone ends up pleading guilty, and he's sentenced, and there's this press release on Facebook posted by Delaware County Prosecutor's Office of Melissa A. Schiffel. And here in this post, former attorney sentenced to 4.5 years in prison for telecommunications fraud and attempted impersonation of a peace officer. Again, this is August 26, 2025. Today, Delaware County Common Pleas Court Judge James P. Schuck sentenced Adam Stone, a 42-year-old Bucyrus man and former attorney, to 4.5 years, or 54 months, in prison for telecommunications fraud, a felony in the 3rd degree, and attempted impersonation of a peace officer, a felony in the 4th degree. Judge Schuck found that the offenses were serious enough that the maximum consecutive sentences are warranted. And so what we're learning today, this news story today, is Adam Stone is asking for a judicial release. He's saying this sentencing length is too much. So Stone, a licensed attorney at the time, was hired by the victims to file a wrongful death lawsuit following the death of their son. Stone's effort in the wrongful death suit were ultimately unsuccessful. Stone then began fabricating a pursuit of an investigation into their son's death and criminal prosecution with the Ohio Attorney General's office. For more than a year, he lied to the victims and used his position as an attorney to defraud them. His criminal scheme culminated when he impersonated an attorney with the Special Prosecution Section of the Ohio AG's office while on the phone with the victims. Yeah, don't do that. Probably not a good idea. Lawyers are not above the law. Stone irreparably damaged the reputation of the legal profession while destroying any hope and faith in the justice system that the victims are entitled to have as citizens of this great country. The travesty could have been avoided if Stone had simply told the truth, Schiffel said. This case was prosecuted by Delaware County Prosecutor Melissa Schiffel and assisting prosecuting attorney Chelsea Kipzudi. And then below it just has like an image card with the post. And then fast forward to November 25th, 2025. A female assistant prosecutor files a civil stalking protection order against Judge Schuck, alleging stalking, sexual coercion, and pressuring her for sex. And none of the articles provide the name of the woman with the lawsuit. I can see it on the docket, but it is not one of the two names listed here. Prosecutor Melissa Schiffel and Assistant Prosecuting Attorney Chelsea Capizzuti. And since I can't see the complaint, we have this article here from 10 TV with a bit more of the details from the lawsuit itself. And this was published on December 3rd of 2025. So they're saying that new documents from the Delaware County Sheriff's Office reveal deputies are investigating an alleged rape involving Delaware County Judge James Schuck. DCSO has now handed over the investigation to the Montgomery County Sheriff's Office to avoid conflict of interest. No charges have been filed in the investigation. In late November, Judge James Schuck took a voluntary leave of absence after he was served a civil stalking protection order, and prosecutor Melissa Schiffel said her office was made aware of an improper relationship involving a sitting judge and an assistant county prosecutor. 10TV obtained the case report taken by Delaware County Sheriff's Deputy on November 25th in response to a request for information regarding the investigation into James Schuck. The report lists alleged offenses, including rape and gross sexual imposition. In the report, a 25-year-old woman reported the suspect, whose name is redacted, began contacting her after she was sworn in last November. According to the report, the woman describes the suspect asking her personal questions, like, "Do you have a boyfriend?" and eventually started texting her and asking her to come to her apartment. The woman told deputies the suspect created a Snapchat account to speak to her so the messages would disappear. In the report, a woman describes an incident in May where she alleges she was sexually assaulted at the courthouse. For the next several months, she alleges in the report that the suspect continued to try and have sex with her, despite her saying no. The report reads, "What scared her the most is how emotional he would get when she told him." Schuck's attorney, Paul Scarcella, sent the following statement in response. Judge Schuck acknowledges a personal relationship between the parties. However, he adamantly denies the blatantly false allegations made in the petition and the report to the sheriff's office. Those claims were made only after the relationship was disclosed to her employer and an internal investigation was initiated. We look forward to confronting these allegations at the hearing on the 16th. So again, fast forward, ABC 6 in an article published on February 11th of this year added some additional context. It says attorneys for Judge James Schuck provide text messages, so they're providing some text messages, polygraph results, and assault probe. So attorneys for a Delaware County judge facing allegations of sexual assault say they've provided investigators with evidence, including polygraph results and text messages intended to exonerate him. Judge James Schuck remains under investigation following claims made in November by a female assistant prosecutor in Delaware County. The accuser, who was granted a temporary protection order by a visiting judge, alleged in court filings that Schuck forced her to have sex in his judicial chambers and subsequently harassed her via social media and text messages. Defense attorney Brad Kofel confirmed that Schuck met with detectives from the Montgomery County Sheriff's Office, which is leading the investigation to avoid local conflict of interest, for 4 hours last week. And then in a quote here, Brad Kofel says, "By any objective standard, this is not even close to what it has been portrayed to be." While Schuck has previously acknowledged an extramarital relationship with the woman, he's consistently denied any criminal conduct. In addition to his interview with detectives, the judge's legal team turned over the results of a private polygraph test. And in response to that, attorneys representing the accuser gave a statement. They said, "Sexual violence in the workplace that exploits a tremendous power imbalance is a criminal act. My client stands by the testimony that she gave under oath, establishing the need for a protective order that a fair and neutral judge granted." And at this point in time, there was a court hearing scheduled to determine if the temporary protection order against Schuck will be made permanent. And if we hop over to this article from ABC 6, published in March of this year, we have some more context. So, Delaware County judge accused of sexually assaulting an assistant county prosecutor who practiced in his courtroom has agreed to a protection order and is waiving his right to a hearing on the request. Judge James Schuck agreed in court paperwork not to contact the woman. Both are allowed to work in the Delaware County Courthouse, although Schuck is on a voluntary leave of absence to deal with his legal issues. Court documents say Schuck does not admit to any wrongdoing. The Montgomery County Sheriff's Office is investigating whether anything criminal took place. In November, the woman came forward with an accusation that Schuck sexually assaulted her in his chambers, then harassed her with thousands of text messages and social media messages. Last week, the woman accused Schuck of continuing to stalk her on social media using a fake LinkedIn account. Schuck's attorney denied that in a court filing, saying it was just an automated message from the platform and not from the judge. By consenting to the order, Schuck won't need to be in court for the full hearing next week, which his lawyer characterized as unnecessary because his client, quote, "has no desire or intention to have any contact with the petitioner. He was more than ready to agree to that and reduce it to writing." Schuck will be prohibited from interfering with her work with the Delaware County Prosecutor's Office and is barred from any form of electronic surveillance on her. The order expires in November of this year. Then on April 7th, so earlier this month, assistant prosecutor accusing Delaware County judge of sexual assault resigns. So the assistant prosecutor sends a resignation letter to prosecutor Melissa Schiffel and said she's unable to continue working at the office because of Schuck's anticipated return to the bench. So he's been on a voluntary leave, but part of that consent order, even though he's not supposed to contact the assistant prosecutor, he's still going to be able to be in the courthouse. And then a quote from the assistant prosecutor says, "I've suffered and continue to suffer from the effects of a wrongful power imbalance relationship with Judge Schuck For that reason, I cannot continue my career with the Delaware County Prosecutor's Office under circumstances where his return is both anticipated and imminent, she wrote in the letter. The assistant prosecutor's last day is May 11th. We acknowledge that Mr. Schuck folded and agreed to the protection order after a months-long campaign in the media professing his innocence, but due to his anticipated return to the bench, our client has had to make the incredibly difficult decision to resign and leave her position as assistant prosecutor, which the Delaware County prosecutor has accepted, and they entered into a separation agreement, her attorney said in a statement. Schuck's attorney, Brad Koffel, shared the following statement. Let me be crystal clear. This was a consensual sexual relationship that, and they swapped the name, they just say assistant prosecutor, pursued and continued. He agreed to the consent order because there was no reason to fight that. The assistant prosecutor either quit or was given the opportunity to resign, I don't know. And the article notes that Schuck's been on voluntary leave of absence since last November, and then it also notes that officials with the Delaware County Court of Common Pleas said they've not been made aware of a date that Schuck will return from leave. While all that was going on, Adam Stone was appealing his sentence, his prison sentence. And on April 15th, the Court of Appeals affirms his sentence. And then on April 20th, yesterday, Stone files a motion for a judicial release. And it's really a twofold argument. He says Mr. Stone is an eligible offender as he is serving a non-mandatory aggregate sentence of less than 5 years, and it has been longer than 180 days since Mr. Stone was admitted to prison on September 22, 2025. Moreover, Mr. Stone has, as described in the attached memorandum, done everything that he can so far while incarcerated to better himself and demonstrate his rehabilitation. A lot of the supporting information in the memorandum in support for this request deals with, he's been on good behavior, he's made changes, he's not going to be in the legal profession anyway. But briefly, there's another part of the motion that reads as follows. Mr. Stone mentions here that he is uncertain of the current and future status of his sentencing judge, Schuck. Mr. Stone has listed the judge that is currently handling the sentencing judge's cases in the caption here, and feels that he has the duty to inform the court that unlike some other cases, Mr. Stone has learned via a disclosure from the prosecutor's office that there is written evidence in the form of text messages that indicate improper communications between the sentencing judge and a former member of the Delaware County Prosecutor's Office, who was in fact assigned to Mr. Stone's case at the time of sentencing. Now, they don't name who this individual was. It says former member, and even though there's a resignation from the assistant prosecutor that filed a suit, she hasn't technically left yet. And so of the two names of interest to me for assistant prosecutors that were part of the case and may have been part of the case during sentencing that are not the prosecutor, Melissa Schiffel, I don't see either of those names listed here. And even when I hopped over to Wayback Machine, there's a look back for December and then there's a look back for July of 2025. It's not granular enough. One of the names is there in July and the other name is there in December, and neither of those names are there presently at the time of recording this video. But this next line says these messages occurred as late as 3:30 a.m., mere hours before the sentencing, and continued after the sentencing. The messages contain derogatory comments about Mr. Stone, his defense counsel, and even the elected prosecutor, and further display bias against Mr. Stone, as well as a discussion of matters material to Mr. Stone's sentencing. Mr. Stone is concerned about the sentencing judge's behavior and its impact upon his sentence, and raises the matter here in hopes that the sentencing judge will remain recused from Mr. Stone's case, as would be appropriate based upon the evidence that Mr. Stone now possesses. Mr. Stone wishes and hopes that the disqualification process can be avoided. And again, the rest of the motion goes into, he's been rehabilitated and arguments like that. But what I think is so interesting is if you have allegations, no matter who is being referred to here as a former member of the Delaware County Prosecutor's Office, who's having these ex parte conversations with the judge the morning of the sentencing. And that sentencing ends up being the maximum sentence. And one of Adam Stone's arguments is that, it's disproportionate compared to others who have the same convictions for the same crimes that are similarly situated. They didn't get the maximum. The inference being that these ex parte conversations were improper and may have contributed to this decision to lean into the maximum sentencing. And again, I don't know if this former member means that this former member of the prosecutor's office has been dismissed from their duty or who it is. But I'm thinking if this judge doesn't see an issue with having a relationship with an assistant prosecutor. He's denying that there was anything non-consensual happening there, but he's admitted to the relationship. So he's a judge having a relationship with an assistant prosecutor. With just that bit of context, and without any further conclusions about the criminal investigation, I don't think it's far-fetched that he may be communicating with a prosecutor at 3:30 in the morning about cases that he shouldn't be having ex parte communications about. But that's really where the context ends. So this is the latest that I saw. Again, I worked backwards, all because this morning this came across my feed. So kind of a lot going on there. What do you guys think? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Let me know if you're interested in seeing if there's any updates on this one, and take care. Have a good one.